You are looking live at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and Steelers Training Camp 2025. It is Wednesday, July the 30th, day 8 on campus, day 5 of practice, and better late than never, day 1 in pads. Good afternoon, and welcome to Training Camp Live, brought to you by FedEx. I'm Mike Pursuta, joined by Max Starks. And Max, we just got a look at Pat McAfee, who is here with his entourage and his traveling circus. Why wouldn't he be? Yeah. Plum native, and here he is at Steelers Training Camp. It's a big day today, delayed day to finally start playing real football.
It's almost like the weather said, we're waiting for Pat McAfee before we have our first live practice with pads. But, you know, the circus is in town. He's right down the hill from us, live doing his show. And, of course, the fans came out here nice, bright, and early. I mean, we start our radio show with Rob King and I at 10 a.m., and I'd say by 11 a.m., it was packed with fans waiting for the show and jockeying for position behind the set. Took them 2 days to build that set, by the way. So a lot of excitement here today, but no more excitement than finally having Pads Day here at St. Vincent College.
And, you know, the coaches make a big deal out of it. The media makes a big deal out of it, but the players make a big deal out of it, too. Yes. This is legit, right? I mean, there's some things we talk about here that, let's face it, nobody's going to remember in September.
No.
Backs on backers. I bet everyone still remembers how Jaylen Warren announced his presence with authority years ago when he showed up here as an unknown from nowhere. And how do you like him now?
Yeah, exactly. You know who number 30 is on the roster. Craig Wolfley affectionately called him the Bollard Buster. And that's those ballers that come up if you're around any federal buildings. They're the big posts that rise up out of the ground so people can't drive into the building or around it.
I try to stay away from federal buildings if at all
as
possible.
much as possible, but if you have to pass by it, you know, just driving on a little cruise, you'll see those type of things. But that's where he made a name for himself, and that's the drill that Mike Tomlin curates personally. He has his list out, he brings it, and he has his checklist of what he wants to see in that drill, and he hand picks the matchups that happen in there, also the redos. You know, he has a couple of them where he'll see it as like, again, you know, he just gives that, and then they have to go right back up and do it again and see how they respond in those short type of situations. But there's a lot of those going on concurrently. Backs on backers will be there. One-on-one pass rushes at the same time. Wide receiver DB stalk drill. So I call it the three-ring circus time on the field because your attention is going to be all over the place trying to capture everything that's going to happen.
Who do you think gets Jaylen Warren first?
I mean, I think it'll probably end up being like a Patrick Queen. You know, PQ will probably get it, or maybe a Peyton Wilson. I feel like one of the starting inside backers is going to draw Jaylen. They're not going to worry about edges, right? Because we will still have the outside linebackers in those drills, but I think it's going to be more interior linebacker focus with the running backs early on. Then they'll use the tight ends and the outside backers together.
And you know, part of the backs on backers experience. I don't know if they're going to do this today or not. Might save it for tomorrow, but. There's also backs on backers pass coverage, pass route running.
Yes, yes.
And the pass protection stuff that we're going to see today, the blitz pickup, that is heavily weighted in favor of the defense.
Yeah.
The coverage aspect is it's one-on-one. The quarterback has the ball. Nobody's rushing, and the players can run all over the field. There's nobody else out there. So it's heavily weighted in favor of the offense. And Mike Tomlin had mentioned shortly upon his arrival here, he was really looking forward to see Kenneth Gainwell go against Peyton Wilson. Kenneth Gainwell, according to Mike Tomlin, has a real knack for running pass routes. And Peyton Wilson, the speed is apparent. He's identifiable by it. And he is already drawing rave reviews here, and the expectations are through the roof of this tent we're sitting under for Peyton Wilson this year.
No, we're absolutely right. I mean, Peyton Wilson, what he did year one to create a name for himself, you know, to be in the rotation with Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts, and to really submit himself as a third option, the guy that came in right off the bench and replaced him was a lot of the lateral coverage movements. So you're talking about carrying backs out of the backfield, carrying a tight end up the seam and releasing with him. So there was a lot of that. He can run. Brian Urlacher, right, is a guy you think sideline to sideline speed, but can he go affect the blitz game? Is he a guy who can penetrate through the line? And can he also disengage from a would-be blocker and make a play to disorient the quarterback or to make a sack? That's what they're looking for in this type of drill today. Can these guys actually handle the pressure of blitzing up the middle. And like you said, that drill where they'll do it later will be the pass coverage aspect. There's no lineman. There's no D lineman. There's nothing to wade through. So it's literally the entire field is open.
Yeah, and there's no
it's
clock.
a shake drill. Yeah, there's
the
no clock on this.
Stands there until the guy gets open.
Yeah, there's no pressure. There's no movement. He could just sit there and okay, when he's open, throw the dart to him. So, like you said, they're weighted in both sides, but they're both, I think, weighted equally as far as what they want to see. Like, how do you handle duress and how do you escape pressure? And then, of course, your coverage skills, we know after 2.5 seconds, if you're still stuck to the guy, that's a good sign. And the guy's supposed to make the catch after that. But how do you do in those moments, and how do you rebound from those moments, and how you get back into the next play? That's really what they're trying to see. What's the stamina and endurance, and what's the mental capabilities as far as being able to block things out?
The talk about Peyton Wilson, I mentioned the sky-high expectations. Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator back in the spring, said he absolutely has the potential to be a three-down linebacker.
Yeah.
Then we get here, and he's running with the ones, running with Patrick Queen. Malik Harrison, another one of the inside linebackers, spoke a couple days ago, said Wilson's game is going to, quote, skyrocket, unquote. And Malik Harrison added Peyton Wilson is probably already one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. And he's been here 10 minutes, relatively speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Peyton Wilson spoke the other day, Max, and he said his goal this year is to do what Patrick Queen did last year and play 100% of the defensive snaps. That was 1,090, if anybody's keeping track. But he is certainly not shy, Peyton Wilson, about wanting to do anything and everything he can to establish himself as a go-to guy on this defense.
And I wouldn't even take that as a slight. That's why he was drafted here, right? I mean, he was drafted to come and play every single moment and play at a high level. Now he's going to get that chance. Landon Roberts is now a Las Vegas Raider. So there's only space and opportunity to fill that additional inside linebacker position. So let's see if he can take it. You bring in Malik Harrison to create healthy competition, but at the end of the day, Peyton Wilson is a guy they're looking for to take another step and assume that starting role.
Let's throw it down in the frying pan now. Normally I would say the field, but it is unbelievably hot today. We've been talking about the heat throughout camp today, a new experience, and down there to preview it and maybe experience it for us is none other than our good friend Missy Matthews, sideline reporter extraordinaire. Missy, how's it going down there?
It's a little sweaty. It's a little hot, as you said. It feels like the hottest day so far of camp. And, Max, I feel like we're getting used to our new normal, which is you used to be down here sweating with me. Yeah. You're going to be up in that nice air-conditioned radio booth. I know you and Trib got some fans there under the tent up on the hill. So enjoy those while you can until you come down here, because I know you both want to see 7 shots, backs on backers, and all those drills. But it is really hot. I'm not just saying that. And Jonnu Smith was the first offensive player who came down here to the practice fields wearing long sleeves as well. Some of the offensive line who came down, they're sitting underneath the shaded benches. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers came down and sat right in the sun. So I think some people are embracing it. Some people are maybe tapering themselves because it is going to be a long and a hot afternoon of practice. First day in pads finally. Max and I wore them yesterday, jinxed the team because unfortunately they took theirs off to go into the gym here at St. Vincent College. But I am wearing my Plum hat in honor of Pat McAfee and the rest of the Plum guys and the rest of their crew being here on campus. And Aaron Rodgers was on their show just a little bit earlier, guys, and he said in terms of who he thinks on offense might start a fight today, Zach Frazier or Mason McCormick. And I think we all saw Mason McCormick last year taking some offense to a Landon Roberts when he went after Justin Fields. So probably not a bad guess on his part. But a lot of fun here with Pat McAfee on campus. A lot of the fans as they opened gates early. Max, I know when you were heading to your radio show, we were seeing how long the cars were, the fans that were getting ready to be here as well. So have to support my Plum guys. That's why I'm wearing the hat. And, guys, it was free, too.
It's the best kind of hat.
The best hat of all right there.
Missy, you've been to a lot of these training camps, and today's a furious day. If things go the way we think they're going to go, they're going to do backs on backers, and then they're going to do team run live tackling.
Yes.
And that stuff is going to be preceded by 7 shots, which will may or may not be live tackling, at least.
That probably will be live tackling
for the
too,
subsequent downs. What are you looking forward to seeing most today?
I really think it's Caleb Johnson. I know that's kind of the cliche answer, but I think what we know from Jaylen Warren and what he was able to do that first day in pads and the backs on backers, he's just one of those intriguing rookies who you think you know what he's going to look like once the pads are on, but acclimation period doesn't give us that. OTAs, rookie minicamp, mandatory minicamp, we didn't get to necessarily see that. So I am excited to see that as well as the offensive line. And I have been trying to keep an eye here because I know Coach Tomlin did say yesterday that Broderick Jones would be able to practice today. So I'll keep you posted as more and more guys are trickling down the field. But I would have to say Caleb Johnson in backs on backers. What about you guys?
I actually like team run. I know backs on backers used to be the drill of training camp, but I think it's become a little muted over the years. It's not James Ferrier, Larry Foote, a certain. Well, they talked a lot of smack. Let's get right to the point, and that made it really fun. It's gotten quieter from a verbal standpoint. The contact is still fierce, and the competition is still fierce. But I really like, Max, that team run period because, let's face it, this team wants to run the ball, and this defense wants to stop the run. So that is revealing.
Yeah, no, and I think for me, one-on-one pass rush is probably my number one thing, just because I want to see what Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black bring to the equation. And let's see the jump from year one to year two for Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick. And then also, this is a great audition for Spencer Anderson as well, trying to see if maybe he can make some noise at the left guard position. You know, this offensive line is, quote-unquote, in flux because you have some familiar faces, but you have guys playing different positions. Broderick Jones is now moving to Broderick. And then at right tackle, Troy Fautano will be assuming the position as a starting right tackle, even though his season was cut short, still has that knee brace on and still trying to test things out so he can get stronger and stronger. So seeing how that group responds and how that group works together, I think one-on-one passers is the first time you'll see it. And, of course, it leaks into team run and to some of the other progressive periods that happen, the combo block period between the D-line. So I'm going to be intently, after this show is over with, on the sidelines, tracking the big bodies and watching the water buffaloes move along the prairie down there in the field.
Yeah, that checks. The offensive lineman checking out the one-on-one O-line, D-line drills, which are important, but don't usually take center stage on a day such as today. But, Missy, you mentioned you got in the vicinity of that Pat McAfee circus that paralyzed traffic around campus today. I actually got I'm coming from a distance. I could probably walk it, and I got stuck in traffic. I mean, everybody, it seems, is here. These people were standing out in the heat forever to get a good vantage point. Anything special come out of your foray into that madness?
Well, Yinzer's got a Yinz, Triv. You know, I like to say that all the time. And Pat is the epitome of a Yinzer. They even got Danny Smith, who never likes to talk, to go on their show live today. So I think, you know, he's just a true testament to Pittsburgh. But I just think some of the little nuggets, like what Aaron was saying about who was going to potentially get into a camp fight and how Coach Tomlin, you know, number one rule is don't fight. But I do think just, you know, what they're able to bring out of the different people when they interview them. Even TJ Watt and Cam Hayward did their interview together. And TJ was saying that Aaron Rodgers is a very frustrating person to go against in practice. And I also happened to be down there with some of the guys from Plum when Father Paul, who we all know very well from here at St. Vincent College, also travels with us on the road, gave Pat some rosaries as a gift for coming here to the college and to coming to Steelers training camp. So kind of cool to see just the different things. I know Pat and the rest of them were kind of blown away when they were making the trek from the airport to the college to get ready for their show, and they saw some of the monks walking around campus and, you know, had a lot of questions about that. So training camp here in Latrobe is unique. If you have not experienced it, it's definitely something worthwhile doing. But yes, a very hot, sweaty day down here on the field. But I can tell you what, the fans here are excited that it looks like skies are clear. We're going to be good to go, and we're going to get this first padded practice underway in just a little bit.
Missy, great stuff. We will check in with you again before we wrap it up today. Try to stay cool. I doubt you shall, but give it an effort.
I'll drink some water.
I'll bring you a Propel, Missy. Don't worry, like the old days.
Thank you. Love you, Max.
All right, love you too.
I'll tell you, she's great at that, but aren't you glad you're not doing it anymore?
I mean, listen, Missy is a true warrior on the sidelines. Yeah. I mean, and I'm so happy that, you know, that we're able to keep the broadcast family together. I know I'm making the ascension up into the climate-controlled area of the field on game day, but my heart will always be on the sidelines. I mean, Missy and I, for 4 years, trekked up and down through rain, hail, sleet, snow, heat, everything else. And she's a true champion down there. So, I still, if I can give the assist, I'm going to try and give the assist. So I'll bring some electrolytes down for her because she's working hard right now sitting down on the field.
Yeah, that's the thing about that job. You're out there in sizzling temperatures, and then it's December 23rd in Cleveland. And at night.
Yeah, and you got a snow globe game.
It's not
swirling
fun.
around you. Yeah, when you pack for those, you can't pack enough. And I try and use a carry-on when I come, but it's like when it gets to wintertime. I mean, I've got the electric vest, I've got the heavy jacket, and of course I got gloves on. And it's like trying to wade through that. But then you plan for snow, and then all of a sudden you get a rainstorm or icy rain. And then you're trying to figure out how to keep your pack dry. So it's a lot of fun. You definitely cut your teeth down there, but nobody better to deliver in duress than Missy Matthews.
I know you guys had a shortened broadcast yesterday because practice, they were just coming down and starting to warm up when the loudspeaker went off again. I think I've got that message memorized by now.
Yeah, exactly.
The please evacuate the area.
Yeah, please go seek safety in your vehicles. Clear the field, please.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and listen, by the amount of rain, if you did stay here in that field, I imagine you had a little bit of issue trying to get out of those fields because it got muddy, it got real soggy real quick. So you probably wanted to evacuate as fast as possible. We had to leave because obviously sitting under this tent is full of metal, and I'm not interested in figuring out if lightning can find metal through a tarp. So we evacuated expeditiously and got inside to the St. Benedict Hall.
Mike Tomlin did speak to the media after the non-practice, the walkthrough in the gym, and just said a couple things that piqued my interest. One, Missy referenced Broderick Jones, scheduled to return today.
Yeah.
And then number two, with the release of Cordero Patterson, kickoff return, there's an opening there. And Mike Tomlin mentioned Kenneth Gainwell, Jaylen Warren, Caleb Johnson, and Roman Wilson as among those who are contending.
Likely suspects
contending
for
that
job?
gig. What do you see happening potentially there?
Well, I think with the new rule and now that there's a penalty that if you kick into the end zone, it now moves up to the 35. That was one of the adjustments they made to the dynamic kicking rule. Then also I was talking with Danny Smith yesterday, and I didn't realize there was actually an alignment adjustment that was also made where now everybody doesn't just line up on the line, in one concert. You can now have a front foot and kind of stagger yourself. But more importantly, you can now offset three members of that front line to where they can be, quote unquote, a second level. So one guy has to be in between the hashes and the other two guys on either side of the hashes. So you can have three guys, but they have to be split throughout the entire lineup. And then, so you don't create like a wall return, like, I want to use all three of my guys on the left side, or I want to use all three of my guys on the right side, and create a predetermined kind of wall concept. You now have a little bit of stagger, so at least you can create a better kind of wall going forward, and guys can get some momentum going.
Steelers special teams were very good last year.
Yes.
Maybe the best in the NFL. But one of the things Danny Smith talked about in the spring was the field position component of it could be better. Help the offense more, help the defense more, make teams go longer on drives, make shorter drives for the offense. And Danny Smith has also been consistent since they started fooling around with this kickoff protocol. He's not going to have a policy, we're just going to do this. We're just going to boot it out of the end zone and take the touchback. What's the situation in the game? Do we feel like we're covering well? What's the weather like? He wants to take a lot of variables into account before actually deciding how to attack it. If you're one of those teams that just decided boot it through the end zone and don't worry about it, would an extra 5 yards get your attention and convince you not to do that, or would you just say, so what?
No, I think that's the reason why they made the rule, because think about this.
Oh, I know why they did, but is it going to
I think it's going to affect it because a defense doesn't want to have to defend 65 yards. They want as much yardage in their favor as possible. You want to make a team go 70, 75, if not 80 yards down the field, because that gives your defense more room to play with. And I think if you booted out getting to the 35, that was the old touchback. Like if you kicked it out of bounds, it went to the 35. So now you're giving your teams very short fields, whereas they just have to get one first down, and they can now start either going for it, or it's going to result in a very deep punt for your team to field transversely on offense and have to go the long way down the field. So I think you're going to see a little bit more craftsmanship, sportsmanship, however you want to call it, where you're going to see more positional kicking, where you're trying to get guys in between that 0 to 10-yard line and trying to get them to actually have to field and run the ball more than just kicking out the back of the end zone, because that is a very tough task, even for a very talented defense, to defend almost at midfield for all intents and purposes.
And it does get the Northeast, at least, it gets tougher to kick it out of the end zone when we get deeper into the season. And
yes.
You're playing in late November, December, early January.
Yeah, and trying to deal with the outdoor elements. Yes, I know we do have, a couple of indoor dome stadiums, but those don't reside in the AFC North. That's for the weaker NFC North brothers. Well, I mean, Cleveland, of course, they need anything to give them attention. So I'm not worried about them. But the rest of the notable teams, Buffalo's not getting a dome stadium. That's a team that thrives in those environments. You talk about Baltimore, you talk about Cincinnati as well, and of course in Pittsburgh, that's an element to our advantage and why you want to have home field and you want to have home games late in the year, because weather is an advantage to the home team.
Gainwell, Warren, Johnson, or Wilson, who gets your attention as a potential
Gainwell
kickoff returner?
is the first one I would think of. Gainwell and Warren are probably my top two on the list, but of course Roman Wilson. I would probably pick those ones before I get to Caleb Johnson as far as being a return guy. I think there's a lot of history, and we've seen them physically do it. Jaylen Warren, super shifty, has a lot of wiggle, and is very explosive. Kenneth Gainwell, another guy that can wiggle out of the backfield and make big gains in the passing game. So you think he'd be a natural fit to be able to run with a line in front of it. And then, of course, Roman Wilson, we need to see the more you can do. We know you're competing for a starting wide receiver job, but what differentiates you from the rest of the field? It would be returning the football, because we haven't seen it. So we'll get our first preview of him in padded practice out here. He was injured a year ago and didn't participate in those things. So getting to see how he moves around and how he reacts to contact and movement.
Of course, Jaylen Warren's done a little bit of that previously.
Yeah.
And, of course, we mentioned at the outset of the show, he is the heavyweight champ of backs on backers, at least on the offensive side.
Undisputed.
He is the guy that they'll all be gunning for today. And as luck would have it, our camp combo was with Jaylen Warren.
Hi, everybody. I'm Missy Matthews, and welcome to our camp convo presented by UPMC Health Plan. I am joined by running back Jaylen Warren, and Mother Nature has not been kind. Usually that's a good thing for Coach Tomlin, but first day in pads, not able to go. What was his message to the team?
Just keeping it professional. There's other ways, with the delay and all that, there's other ways to get stuff done. And so just making sure we stay focused in that second.
This is a day that a lot of guys look forward to. You made a name on this day, your rookie season. What was the mood like as you guys were in pads, down on the field, and found out you had to come inside?
I liked it because everybody, we were excited. We knew what was coming. We were excited to get to it, but, I guess we just not going to do it.
In terms of waiting one more day, what do you tell a guy like Caleb Johnson, who this will be his first go-around in a backs-on-backers or a Coach Tomlin-type practice?
Just that, even though it didn't happen today, it's going to happen. And just to, keep preparing, keep working on the fundamentals. Today we'll probably use it as a mental day, another get-better day. And so I know he's going to shine when it comes.
What has it been like through the acclimation period for you personally, being the veteran guy in that room who has been through this process before in Pittsburgh?
I guess just sharing my knowledge, at the position I am in today, I'm still learning, as well as others, and passing the knowledge I've learned throughout my 4 years down to Caleb, and, however he takes it, but he's been making sure he, gets it done well.
All right, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I like that, Max. Half a show yesterday, no practice, but still a camp combo.
Yeah, still got one in.
Camp combo marches on.
Listen, Missy Matthews, she braved the elements to get that interview and to share it with the rest of Steeler Nation. Great conversation. Even though Jaylen Warren's not the most verbose person when he's talking, you listen to what he says. and it's all about preparation. It's all about getting ready. Coach Tomlin, keep sharpening yourself because the opportunity is going to come. And I think hearing that Caleb Johnson, he's sharing with him, and he feels confident about what he's going to provide, especially today when you get to those drills where it is mano a mano, all eyes on him. How are you going to perform under that microscope? So it's good to get that type of insight.
Yeah, we talked a lot the last time we did this program together about how Caleb Johnson's got to hold up in pass protection to be a 3-down option.
Correct.
I think he's going to. I am intrigued about him on kickoff return because of his size, his burst, and his physicality. Get that guy the ball in space. That's half the battle, just getting him in space, right? If it's a running play, you got to get him to the edge or you got to get him through the first wave. Yeah, now it's almost a cheat code. I think he could excel at that.
Yeah, he could, but I mean, like you said, you have so many guys that are known commodities in that area that, for you to stand out, especially early in this process, if you could show well when you get the Danny Smith periods that we'll see today in special teams, maybe make a name for yourself. But I know what I'm getting with number 30 when he's back there. I know what I'm getting with Kenneth Gainwell. The question is going to be Caleb Johnson and Roman Wilson. Those are the unknowns. So how you do today will start to put you in quote-unquote pole position as you move forward throughout these practices, and of course as we charge ahead to Friday Night Lights, where you get kind of that team scrimmage aspect a little more on the mile marker journey, where you can really get to see these guys shine. So it starts today, though.
You mentioned Jaylen Warren, not maybe the most loquacious of Steelers when dealing with the media. I'll tell you what he is. He's the most hydrated.
Yeah.
Every day that I've been over for the lunchtime media session, we stand outside the locker room and grab guys as they come and go by. And every day I've been there, he's come out of the locker room with a case of water on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Heading back to his – a case.
Yeah, you can't take that for granted, your hydration. Listen, I live in Arizona, so I can appreciate that, where you had to carry a gallon jug with you every day. Up here, it's unseasonably warm for this time of year. I mean, we get warmth, but today the weather's at 91 degrees but feels like 98 degrees. Yeah. That is a lot of heat, especially considering the amount of moisture from all the rain that we have. It's going to continue to dry and make it just even muggier up here. So hydration is key, especially in those moments. You don't think you drink when you sweat on your skin, but you're still losing water. So you want to be mindful of that so you don't get cramps. I've had some of the worst cramps of my life out here thinking I was fine because I was sweating and realizing that my body was empty on the inside. So keep the tank full inside so you can keep sweating on the outside.
It seems as if we've been talking about the weather every day, and I hope people don't think we're just whining about it. I mean, it's a factor this year.
It is.
There's a difference between uncomfortable and challenging.
Yes.
This is challenging. This is not easy to be out here. I'm amazed how they can practice in this, to be honest with you, because I've been doing this a long, long time. I don't ever remember it being this hot. And just standing around waiting for plays. I had a T-shirt on today during the lunchtime meeting, and I soaked through it, and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't running laps or lifting weights or making layups. I was just standing there waiting for people and holding a microphone out periodically, and it's tough.
Yeah, just being in this weather is tough enough as it is. But like you said, when you get into actually trying to do movements very fast and trying to do things against other people's will, that just exacerbates what you're trying to do. So these are the moments that I want to know how you're going to react, because guess what? These preseason games, they're done this time of year. The opening of the season, if you have to go down south for any reason, you're going to experience this type of heat. Miami, New Orleans, Carolina, Jacksonville, you're going to get a very early and it gets really muggy in Jacksonville. I grew up in Orlando, played my ball in college in Gainesville, and Gainesville's only 45 minutes from Jacksonville, so the weather's very swampy, so to speak, and you have to be able to deal with that. You still got to be able to perform. So this is a preview of what you're going to have to experience in season. So why not try and mock these conditions and try and see how guys perform, and also give guys a barometer to know, hey, is my hydration up to par? Can I clearly focus when I'm tired and sweat's in my eye, the salt's burning my eyes when I open them every time? How can I still perform under that? And Coach Tomlin, there's a reason why he switched from morning to afternoon. It was to get this very environment on more days than not.
Yeah, and the rain has been a little challenging to work around as it was yesterday. But so far, Max, that's a price they're willing to pay. They want to sweat it out here.
Well, and also, it's not necessarily the rain, but it's the lightning, right? That's the only thing that clears the field, because you're going to play football in rain. You're going to play it in snow. You're going to play it in the less than ideal conditions. But the lightning has been the real surprise because you can practice in rain and you can still get a lot of work done in the rain. But when the lightning component comes into it, that's what shuts things down. And that's done it twice so far for practice out here in Latrobe. Hopefully that does not continue as a trend. Hopefully you get past that and you can at least move in or at least get a majority of practice in before that late afternoon thunderstorm.
And then the other component, when it rains as hard as it did yesterday, I mean, it cleared up relatively quickly, but by then the field was soaked. And
it was flooded.
You can't be running around out here risking injury.
Yeah, no, I was telling Father Paul earlier, right before we came on the air, he was like, I've never seen rain that fast come down. I was like, yeah. I was like, and if they would have came out yesterday, Father Paul, it would have been a human slip and slide contest out there. You're just seeing guys just trying to like hydroplane over the water, which we've done a couple of times back in my years here at camp. It is a fun thing, but not when you're trying to get work done. It's not the ideal circumstance.
Max, another little nugget from Mike Tomlin yesterday. We talked a little bit about the kick return derby, such that it is. Punt return, there are great expectations for Calvin Austin III.
Yes.
The Steelers, you talk to the wide receivers coach or the offensive coordinator or the head coach, they'll tell you they think Calvin Austin is a number 2 receiver. They think he's going to be a weapon. They think he's going to be impactful. And I asked Mike Tomlin yesterday, could there be a point where he's so impactful at wide receiver they no longer want to risk him as a punt returner? Mike Tomlin said, nope, he likes him there. He thinks that Austin's goal is to be the best in the world at it, and he took strides toward that last year. And Mike Tomlin wants to see how many more strides Calvin Austin III can take punt returning this year. He is pretty good at it, worth the potential injury risk, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but you go down the line historically. Antoine Randall was a very explosive offensive player as well. He was a punt returner. Antonio Brown, punt returner. Santonio Holmes. These guys, you're talking about Super Bowl MVP and a guy who led the league in catches for like a 4-year stretch, all still punt returners. So who's to make Calvin Austin any different from that? He's going in a mold that the Steelers have come to expect from a star wide receiver that can also give you an explosive return game and be essentially the first play of offense. That's what punt return is, just like a kick return is. That's the first play on offense when you're receiving the football. So why not have that guy put his best foot forward?
And that leads into Danny Smith's stated goal that the special teams become more impactful from a field position step. They're great at blocking kicks and all that stuff, but you can always get better at something, particularly in a discipline as varied as special teams.
Yeah, because you're trusting 11 guys to do their job to make it perfectly executed. And how often do we see that happen? Doesn't happen that often. So might as well try and keep getting better, keep cutting your teeth and keep chopping wood to get better as a unit.
Let's throw it back down to the frying pan now and catch up again with Missy Matthews. Missy, how hot is it?
You say frying pan and I kind of laugh, but I mean, everybody is complaining how you're just standing here and dripping sweat. So imagine having some pads on and going through a grueling practice for the first time. But these players, they were ready for it yesterday. Unfortunately, had to wait till today. A quick update in terms of the offensive line. Still no Isaac Seumalo, but Broderick Jones is out here today. He has the shoulder pads on, but he's not wearing the football pants. But he is during the early portion of walkthrough warmups working with the first team unit. So it'll be interesting to see how much he's able to do today in practice. I know yesterday Coach Tomlin said he'd be able to do something in some form or fashion today.
Missy, question for you. I wanted to ask, he has like those black pirate pants on? Yeah, the black pirate pants on right now.
That's a great explanation, yes.
Yeah, he has the black pirate pants on. But, you can put your girdle shell underneath it. And do you see like any thigh boards on him, or is it just kind of just the baggy pants that he's wearing?
It doesn't look like he has the thigh boards on underneath.
Okay,
and he did come down just a little bit later than the rest of the guys. But as I said, still through, the walkthrough phase, he was going with the first team as they were doing some stuff. So I'll be able to keep you guys posted and shoot you a text before you go off air if I see anything.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Missy.
Missy, when we get to 7 shots, is it going to be 7 runs or maybe is Arthur Smith going to do a little play action and a little trickery?
Yeah, I 7 shots. You asked me before what I was looking most forward to seeing. I went with backs on backers and Caleb Johnson, but I agree with 7 shots, especially since Coach Tomlin likes to sometimes run things back or say, hey, actually, first team offense and defense come decide the 7th shot. I think we're going to see some ground and pound. I think we want to see what that run game looks like with the pads on.
Yeah, I hope so. There have been times here over the years. I can remember Max going all the way back to the Mike Mularkey days. They'd get a little tricky.
Yeah.
And the defense didn't like that. And Mike Mularkey would say, hey, it's a touchdown. It counts.
It's football. I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's football out here. So expect the unexpected in these moments. And this is a moment to try whatever's going to be successful. This is a chance to really start to build what your 2-point play menu looks like, because they're doing it from the 2-yard line. So you can get pretty creative with formations, personnel groupings, and different aspects that you can kind of manipulate to see how the defense responds to those things. Missy, I got this question for you. As you kind of look around, I mean, I know we talk about backs on backers being a big one, one-on-one pass rush, but that wide receiver DB stalk drill that we know also goes on concurrently with those. That's the third ring in the 3-ring circus. Who are you looking for down there in those drills? Because there's a lot of wide receivers vying for positions on this team and a very crowded secondary, and everybody's trying to prove themselves that they deserve to be noted. Who are you looking for down there in those drills?
I think Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III, I think proved himself after missing his rookie season, but I do want to see, can he contain that and have the consistency of carrying that over into another season? But I think Roman Wilson's the big question mark that a lot of people wanted to see last year. Unfortunately, didn't make it through training camp without getting hurt, and then we didn't see him much during the regular season. So he might be one of those guys. I feel like the other guys like Scotty Miller we have seen. So I think number 10 is one of the guys I'm going to be keeping my eye on. And still, DK Metcalf, with the pads on. I know we were in Seattle just a few years ago, Max. We were eyeing him up on the sideline. Still just a specimen when you add a little bit extra to him than what we've seen here during the acclimation period.
Missy, outstanding as always. Enjoy your preseason reps on the sideline. That preseason opener will be here before you know it.
No doubt. Thanks, guys.
That was sideline reporter extraordinaire, Missy Matthews. Max, Aaron Rodgers spoke with the media today, and he also spent some time with Pat McAfee, of course.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Yeah. But
you mean Aaron Rodgers knows Pat McAfee?
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay,
a little bit.
Just checking.
About 5 minutes with us just before the end of that lunchtime media access, and one of the guys that Rodgers talked about in detail was Zach Frazier. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but he talked about Frazier's leadership potential and how Frazier is exhibiting that. Rodgers said that he's still not 1,000% locked down with the offense, so sometimes Frazier is making calls. And Rodgers told Frazier, hey, don't get used to that. Eventually I'm going to be making the calls for you. But for now, it's a sign to Rodgers that Frazier is taking over. And Rodgers added that leadership often comes from performance and production, and the Steelers know what kind of player Zach Frazier is, and the more that is on display here in year 2, the more of a leader Zach Frazier is going to become. Last but not least, Max, Aaron Rodgers said Zach Frazier has the perfect temperament to play center.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, and Aaron's had a lot of experience with centers over his years. I mean, you're talking about a guy 2 decades in the NFL, and has received the snap from a lot of different guys. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how that is. But surprise, surprise, he compliments another former West Virginia player, right? We just talked about Pat McAfee being a Mountaineer. Now Zach Frazier, a.k.a. the Morgantown Mauler, for our good friend Wolf. That's what he coined him as, and that's what we will continue to call him. He's a guy that I'm looking forward to in one-on-one pass rush and taking the next step. He's going to go against Derek Harmon or Y.A. Black, however they script it, for Carl Dunbar, and he has to continue to grow. I mean, he's had a little bit of a hiccup here during camp so far, couple of fumbled snaps in the 7 shots periods and some other team periods, but he's a guy that I think it doesn't bother him, and he takes mental notes, and he usually tries to correct those things pretty quickly, but that's what it's going to be. It's going to be how consistent can you be, and can you make that jump from a young rookie to a more experienced second-year vet with the amount of snaps that he's gotten. Can he go to another level? And I think he's a guy that's very well equipped to do so.
You know, Aaron Rodgers also talked about the work the Steelers' offense is getting against this Steelers' defense. And while Rodgers categorized it for the first 4 days as pretty soft, they're playing off coverages and they're not blitzing and things of that nature. But Rodgers really enjoys the give and take. He said sometimes the best thing for an offense at this point of the preseason is failure. You learn more from that than you do success. Not that you root for failure because you want to have a great practice every day, but this defense is going to challenge this offense and vice versa. And, Max, isn't that the whole idea?
That is the idea. It's supposed to be give and take because you're trying to get better. And you can't have it lopsided every single day. You can't have one side just decimating the drill. You want to see some success. You want to figure out what we can and can't do as a team, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. And this is the perfect place where there's essentially no harm, no foul. And when you do mess up, trying something to get better. But at the same time, you want to make sure there's consistency being created as well along the way. And I think that's the biggest thing is how consistent can you be from one day to the next? And can you build upon the successes of the prior day and create some more efficiency as your unit so you can expand on what you do both offensively and defensively. So it's fun that you are having this repartee where it's off coverage, it's man press, it's run, it's pass, it's trick plays, because you're going to get that on game day. So why not try and simulate that here and allow for, if you are going to have a failure, be able to fix that on film and go out the next day and prove that you learn from your mistakes.
We're going to look at Alex Highsmith there a moment ago, hanging out on the sideline with Cam Hayward, and Rogers mentioned to us that he spent some time last night hanging out in Alex Highsmith's room. I mean, just,
You should.
The 4-time MVP, future Hall of Fame quarterback, and one of the up-and-coming pass rushers, edge rushers in the NFL. Why wouldn't they get together and talk ball?
I mean, that's the best part about being here at training camp, and I can't overstate it enough. This is one of the few places that still goes away for training camp, and it forces you to be in an unfamiliar environment, which if you're a veteran here, you kind of are familiar with Latrobe, Pennsylvania. You know where Sharky's is, you know where Dino's is, right? And you know your way around here, I would say, right, Mike? You know how to get to
I know where both of those places are.
Yeah, you know how to get to the local watering hole. But for the team, this is an opportunity for them to spend time in dorm rooms. You don't have your house. You don't have all of your comforts of home. So you're forced to interact. And I think that's a good thing for team building, team bonding. And I think it not only goes a long way for players, but for coaches as well, right? You have nothing really to distract you up here. And it's all about the process. It's all about ball. It's all about team bonding and guys creating a sense of community and a sense of, as close as you can get to familial and a competitive environment. It gives you that opportunity. And so why wouldn't Aaron Rodgers want to go talk to Alex Highsmith? Because he's still trying to craft his game. What tells am I giving you? Do you know when I make a call or when I do a hand signal, does that give you an additional key, and vice versa? What are you seeing from me that makes you think I'm going to rush or drop? So you have that kind of good repartee. And Aaron's really good about getting that information, also sharing that information.
Funny story about hand signals. I can remember a game where Landry Jones had to replace Ben Roethlisberger, and he made a big connection to Antonio Brown that was kind of figured out at the line of scrimmage. And he said, I noticed the coverage, and I grabbed my face mask and let AB know to do this.
Yeah.
And Ben Roethlisberger later observed, thanks, Landry. Now we got to change the hand signals.
Yeah. Thanks. That was such a good one. And now it no longer exists because you just told the world.
I figure they always adjust the mask a little bit, but now that one's off the table. Another nugget from Aaron Rodgers. It was pretty engaging for just a 5-minute interview today. He talked about looking forward to the team run period today and the live tackling. He said he couldn't remember the last time he was in a live tackling period. And then he added, if they are stacking the box, a lot of times I'll go to a run solution is how he phrased it, and just throw it wide to DK in a game. But today I think I'm just going to give it to Jaylen and see what happens.
Yeah.
That told me two things. They want to run the ball no matter how tough it's going to be, because you have to do that at times.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're ahead in the game. They know you're going to run. You got to run it anyway and bleed the clock. But when he said run solution, I thought, okay, he's going to have a little wiggle room here.
Yeah.
Probably more than the quarterbacks since Ben have had.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, he's one. I get Russ was a veteran quarterback and very polished and has a very esteemed career, will be a Hall of Famer. But once again, he's still no Aaron Rodgers, right? You're talking about one of the most prolific passers in the game's history. And if he sees something over his, 19 years in the league, I think you'll trust his eyes over your schematics on your playbook.
20, right?
Yeah, 20. Yeah, he's at 20 this year. So, I'm sorry, he's completed 19 seasons. This is 20th season coming up. But, I would trust Aaron Rodgers to make the right call out of something or audible into the right thing, because he's going to know what it looks like better than Arthur Smith on the sidelines, right, and getting a paper or a visual after the play's been done he's diagnosing in real time. So you kind of put that trust in a guy like Aaron Rodgers to make that decision.
Intrepid sideline reporter Missy Matthews reporting from the frying pan via text that Broderick Jones now has the thigh boards on.
There we go. I was wondering. I was like the pirate pants, doesn't change anything because Broderick does not like wearing the yellow pants. I mean, what I've learned over here, he's like, it's too constricting. It's tight around the back of the knee, so he wears the pirate pants. But you have a girdle where you can put.
When you say
the
pirate
thigh
pants, you don't mean like baseball pants. You mean like
no, I mean like a
yo ho ho and a bottle of rum.
exactly. A parrot on the shoulder, peg leg bob, whatever you want to call it. And he cuts them, Capri style. So. But yeah, he's got those on. I know you can always throw those in your girdle. You have a shell pocket where you can slide the thigh boards in and put them in and still get the work done because guys aren't required to wear knee pads now. And so that's why you see in the picture there, number 62, Ryan McCollum, he has the shorter version of the yellow full leg pants because you're only required to wear thigh boards. You're not required to wear knee boards or knee pads in your uniform for full padded practice. So, he can get a little more stylish in his approach.
Is that what you're calling that, stylish? We're going to stick with that?
Ish. Heavy on the ish, less on the style.
Less on the style.
Yeah, you can put capital ISH in lowercase still.
Broderick Jones is not Aaron Rodgers. He's not T.J. Watt. He's not Cam Hayward. He's not Jalen Ramsey. But he is one of the linchpins for this team, right?
Yeah, he has to be.
He's got to show up and play well.
And you got to be – consistency is the key game at left tackle. Above all else, you have to be consistent at what you do. And so that's going to be the biggest thing. Broderick Jones has been up and down at the right tackle position, been a powder keg at times, as far as being a catalyst for getting things going on the field and getting emotion. At left tackle.
And getting penalties.
Yeah, and getting penalties for that. But you have to be as cool as the water that a duck rides on. It could be furious below the surface, but up top it has to be very still, very calm for him. So that's going to be one of the things we're going to be depending on him because he has Aaron Rodgers' backside. And that is a premium position for a pocket passing quarterback is you have to be secure on the backside. One of the things, I took great responsibility in my time as a Steeler, as a left tackle, was making sure that Ben knew he could trust where I was going to be every single play that I had his back.
Broderick Jones, he didn't play a ton at Georgia. He came to the NFL, a relatively young guy. I don't see what's happened in his first 2 years as anything alarming or atypical, even for a first-round pick. I mean, it takes a little while. You got to grow into it. You got to mature. There's going to be some ups and downs. He has always struck me, and Max, this goes back to the first press conference after they drafted him, and then, they fly the number one pick in, and there's the photo op the next day, and he holds up the jersey and talks to everybody again. I thought, man, this guy is sharp. He's got a great attitude. He seems to have a real perspective on things. I don't see any reason why he should fail. Is there one that I'm not catching?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is going to be how fast can he adjust to that footwork as we see him kind of a little bit off stagger on his leg swings. But for Broderick, the biggest thing is going to be that consistency and how fast do you adapt to now being a left tackle like you were before to now being, going back to that after taking a 2-year stint at the right tackle position. Biomechanically, you got to shift those hips back into place and create consistency and memory recall for your body. And that's going to be the biggest thing is how fast does he adapt back to left, which I had a conversation with him on the field. He was talking about, man, it's like riding a bike. I feel comfortable out here. Left tackle just feels natural to me. And I thought that was a good sign. As a guy who did the same thing that he's doing, played my first 3 years at right tackle and then transitioned to left, that's what you want to hear from a guy that's quote-unquote at cross-training and going over to the other side. So I feel very confident in Broderick. I love his athleticism. I love his power. And I think that's going to be something that translates really quickly.
Does he strike you as a guy that's got his head on his shoulders and he's got the right perspective and focus?
Yeah, I think so. I think he knows what it is. He spent a lot more time up here in Pittsburgh this offseason kind of readying himself for this opportunity. So I don't think the moment's going to be too big. Listen, he's had plenty of big games at Georgia, so the crowd's not going to bother him. It's going to be, the competition, and can he keep a guy inside out and make sure Aaron Rodgers has enough time? That's what it's going to come down to for him. But as far as the mental, I think he's very strong.
He said he took off some weight. Was that necessary?
I think for him, he wanted the speed, right? Because the speed rushers off the edge now in the NFL, especially off that left side, are very quick and athletic. So if he felt he was a little bit kind of slower at the right tackle position. Yeah. It's something, but here's a great thing about
are
camp.
you that much quicker at 311 than you were at 320 or 330?
You can be, yes. Yeah, 10 pounds makes a difference. I mean, just, put on a 10-pound weight vest and see if you could do the same things that you did before and then take it off. It's a world of difference. And for Broderick, I actually think he might be a little bit lower than that. I think he might be closer to 305, looking at him, standing next to him down on the field. So he's very slim. But the good thing is you can always add weight later. It's good to come in too slim and build it back up a good way.
I've noticed that in my path, my journey.
Yeah, you have. You've noticed that.
You can always add weight.
You can always add more. So, yeah, if it's one extra serving of a protein shake.
Particularly when you come up to training camp for a couple, 3 weeks.
Yeah, and you find those local watering holes, right? You get very hydrated really quickly.
You got to hydrate. That's
hydrate.
It's important. The O-line has been kind of front and center here, as you guys normally are. You're always very accommodating with the media and very upfront.
We're loquacious,
very,
unlike Jaylen Warren.
We're
very loquacious.
I've spoken to Zach Frazier talked a little bit today, and Troy Fautanu the other day, and everybody is aware that this is not the biggest offensive line by NFL standards.
No, definitely not. Definitely not back in the early 2000s. We had very large offensive linemen roaming the earth.
If you take Isaac Seumalo out of the mix, it's not the most experienced offensive line by NFL standards. So how's it going to work? How are they going to make up for that? Well, the kind of general consensus, finish, effort, and technique.
And I would add tenacity.
Okay.
It's a very tenacious group. I mean, you look at Mason McCormick, he wants contact. He lives for contact. Zach Frazier wants to roll you up like a wrestler. And, of course, we already know Broderick Jones is a powder keg just waiting for a little bit of a fuse to be lit, and he's going to explode. So you have that tenacious aspect, but like you said, adding the technique into it, adding, the ability to finish on opponents and slow them down by just using time and time again, relentless effort. Those are all the hallmarks of how you grow into a great offensive line. And they're young enough that you could see this lineup for years to come when executed.
And the theory is also being bandied about by multiple suspects, the usual suspects that I just reeled off. In an Arthur Smith offense, that athleticism that you get when you aren't, as one guy put it, I think it was Fautano, a big slob.
Yeah. I prefer encumbered, but I guess big slob is another way of saying that.
You can get out on an outside zone, and you can get out on a screen, and you can get down the field and do things athletically that maybe you can't with bulk.
Yeah, you can't do it with bulk, but at the end of the day, what is the number one mantra? I remember the great American philosopher Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
You still have to be able to punch a dude in the mouth and make them think about their decisions. I don't care how fast you can run around that guy, you still at some point got to run through him. So that's still the emphasis and number one critique in this group, wants to run through you, which is always what you want to have. Yeah, I love it. Trust me, I used to love Toss 39 Taxi and 38 Boss Sweep. I loved all those. Got me out, got me running, showing off my athleticism and hitting a DB.
Nothing like leading the back on TV into the end zone,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it's not like being the leader of the convoy, right? But at the end of the day, 22-23 double, I need to be able to take that defensive tackle that does not want to move and move him against his will and throw him into the lap of the linebacker who does not want to get touched and create a path for my running back to run up the middle. Because a lot of big gains can happen up the middle just as much as they can happen out on the edge.
If this works, and there's certainly optimism that it will, then as you mentioned a second ago, you got your line of the future. They're all young except Isaac.
Yeah.
And, next year you might go QB shopping if this is, in fact, Aaron Rodgers' final season, as he has speculated it might be. And then you have the established line with the young quarterback, and it'll all just dovetail and keep moving down the line.
That is what the plan looks like on paper. And if you don't remember,
that plan hasn't been punched in the mouth yet.
It has not been yet. So here's a chance for them to really make a stake for a claim to where now if I just need to insert a quarterback, things will go. Think about Ben Roethlisberger when he came in 2004. Everything else was set up for him, and it was insert QB1 into that equation because you had an experienced backfield, a lot of good running backs, Jerome Bettis and Deuce Staley, and you add in Veron Haynes and a young undrafted free agent by the name of Willie Parker. So adding that in there with an experienced line and experienced pass catchers with a really good, excellent defense, quarterback could be the differentiator that you're looking for a year from now. Or we might have it on the team.
Might.
18 might be one. QB one.
Yeah.
But as number 18, you got it. Anyways.
I get where you're going with that. Today, of course, a big day. You see the guys with the pads on, and the hitting is going to commence momentarily. It's also a big week at training camp because Friday night the Steelers will venture over to Memorial Stadium in Latrobe, take the yellow school buses across town for Friday night lights. Of course, Steeler Nation, I'm sure, well aware by now, but in the event you're not, it is free to attend, but you have to register and get yourself a ticket. And much like today, it will be a traffic colossus, and leave yourself some extra time.
We'll have to weed our way through it as well.
Let me correct myself. It's a $10 charge to attend Friday Night Lights.
Oh,
still a
far cry.
Still a bargain at twice the price,
and
Max.
unless Mike Pursuta wants to buy your tickets, which you can
He
hit
does
him
not.
up.
He does not. But I encourage you to spend the 10 if you're a Steelers fan. I've been going there forever, and that is just something that takes your breath away every time you go. I mean,
it's an
I
experience.
shake my head that that stadium overflows for a practice.
Hey, but it's the closest you'll get to game-like atmosphere without having to go into Acrisure. So you understand why people are going to want to be there for Latrobe Memorial Stadium. Obviously, 7 p.m. the kickoff. We'll still do our show, and then we'll hopefully get some type of escort down there so we can at least make it there by halfway of practice.
And there'll be tremendous opportunity to get autographs and pictures.
Yeah, Trey Essex will be there signing autographs
earlier
earlier in the day. One of my former teammates making the way from his home up here to Latrobe.
Glad
as well,
you
and a
brought
lot
up
of Steelers
Trey
alumni.
Essex, Max.
Yeah, got to.
He's another Big Ten guy.
It is. He is. He wishes he would have went to the SEC country, but of course, fallback plan goes to the very smart university there in the Big Ten.
Northwestern, in case you were unaware. That is going to do it for us. Thanks to Missy Matthews for braving the conditions down in the frying pan, otherwise known as the practice field. Max, good to be back with you.
Thanks. Good to see you as well. And we're going to go sweat for the next hour and a half watching practice.
Maybe longer. Until tomorrow, thanks for finding us, however and wherever you found us on the Steelers social media platforms. For Max Starks, I'm Mike Pursuta. This has been Training Camp Live, brought to you by FedEx. Good afternoon, everyone.